It's Tuesday the 11th of March 2008. This is the Real MacKay video blog. All about opinions today. For example, Laura and I disagree on this. This is Michael Stipe of REM, who is a kind of iconic figure of modern rock. That's fair to say, Laura, isn't it?
Absolutely, yeah.
Now, I think that looks like Harold Steptoe. Laura doesn't. Well, how did you describe it, Laura?
I said old man chic.
Which is what exactly?
Well, it's just, you know, the kind of trampy kind of waistcoat, ruffled kind of, ruffled kind of look, and it definitely depends on the individual whether you can pull it off or not.
And it's a fine line, you said?
Absolutely, fine line between tramp and chic.
And Michael Stipe manages it, but Harold Steptoe doesn't.
Yeah, that's what I was
saying. See, I just don't get the difference. But it's opinions, okay? Well, we had an interesting conversation yesterday about the lead story. Because the lead story, with two options. We had three possibilities, in fact. We had a late-breaking story about the police saying they were hunting for a paedophile who'd been missing for 2 years, and that gives you a good headline. You also had the SNP and the Liberal Democrats having a meeting last night about a possible alternative to the council tax. The SNP want a local income tax, as do the Liberal Democrats, although different ways of using it. The Liberal Democrats want it locally set, the SNP want it nationally set, and that could affect all our pockets. So some of us argued that should be the lead, and there was also this story about the number of police emergency vehicles involved in incidents. Now, Tom here was very much of the view that we should have gone with the paedophile, the missing paedophile. I was very much of the view we should have gone with the council tax, hitting people's pockets, affecting people's lives. And I was right, Tom, wasn't
I? No, John, no. I mean, it was good we have these healthy discussions, I think, isn't it, at the end of the day? And it wasn't a very strong news day for us.
No, it wasn't. I mean, that was the principal problem. Why did you go for that paedophile story? What was it?
I just felt like it was a story that developed yesterday afternoon. The council tax story we'd kind of done last week, and it's kind of an ongoing thing. It's very important, and we should definitely have done it. But I think the paedophile story broke yesterday afternoon, and it kind of begged a lot of questions, really, which a lot of the papers are touching on today, is as to why it's taken 2 years for the police to come forward and say that this guy's on the run effectively. It just felt to me that if I was a parent at home watching our programme, I would probably be quite interested in the fact that this guy was on the loose and the police were hunting him. Whereas the council tax story probably may have heard quite a lot about before. But
and it's quite a common thing that the papers, for example, the Daily Express today, I've just seen that in my eye there, that the papers go with a story, it reaffirms your view that, not necessarily in this story, but generally speaking, how the papers cover a story, reaffirms what you're saying.
Yeah, I think so, absolutely. But I also think you need to kind of follow your own agenda as well. And I think the problem with yesterday was, and I think the point was made in our meeting this morning, is that at the end of the day, there wasn't a huge amount of news around yesterday, so we kind of had to work really hard to try and put a programme together. So there's arguments for leading on the council tax story, very strong arguments. I think there's also strong arguments leading on the paedophile story as well. Who's right, who's wrong? I think it's all that debate.
Well, I think we know, but thanks, Tom. Another interesting point, Tom. It's your aunt, so your aunt. It's wanting your gran.
My aunt, yeah.
Right, and this is a good idea, actually. Listen to this, bloggers. What do you think? Not bloggers, but forum contributors.
There's obviously lots of blogs on a day-to-day basis, and to actually put the date of each blog next to the actual blog itself, so people know which one to go for.
It's a bright idea. It's a bright idea. So thank your aunts for that. We'll try and get that. We'll try and get that involved. Used. Thanks, Tom. JK.
Good boy.
Right, just having a discussion there with Tom about the top story last night, and you're accepting you're wrong. Is that my understanding of it?
It's all about opinions, John. And I didn't agree with your opinion. No, I think it's healthy that we actually have a decent discussion about these things. Okay, I think you certainly favoured the council story. I personally didn't. I think our viewers would be bored with it by now. Having said that, John, it's important. I felt that the breaking story yesterday afternoon was about the paedophile, and we argued quite a lot for that story. I definitely would have led on that. I think I've been vindicated as well, you'll find, on sport, and I hope you interview Mr.
We're going to do that. The issue with the sport was...
I have evidence of this, John, if you just...
Okay. The issue with the sport was whether we should lead with Gretna going into administration, or Rahman, whether we should lead with Gretna getting into administration, or whether we should go with the continuing row between Hibs and Dundee United. Okay.
Every single paper in the country actually, bar the Daily Record, but the vast majority of newspapers all led on the Gretna story. I felt it was the best story of the day, but you disagree.
Yeah, well, my view at the time was I just thought the Rangers story, Rangers Hibs spat, from our audience point of view, our Central Belt audience point of view, it would have been a greater talker and of greater interest, and given that the Gretna story had been trailed for a while. But as I said in the morning meeting this morning, John, you know, I asked a lot of people's opinions. It was pretty much split. But where I will put my hand up, I always have the philosophy that we should be broadcasting lead stories that the newspapers have the next day. So in that sense, the proof is in the pudding. The majority of them have gone with Gretna.
So that means John was right. At least you get 1 out of 2 right, John.
It's not about a question of who's right and who's wrong. I think in this case, I've been vindicated, and I am right on this.
I'll hold the jackets. You guys can see yourselves outside. Unfortunately, Linda, who was a producer yesterday, and she was having to hold the jackets, as it were, through all this debate. She's not here just now to give us her opinion, but she went on council tax. That was her decision, I think, correctly. Yeah, and Raman guided her on the Rangers story, which she's now backtracking on.
I'm not backtracking. Come on, I never backtrack. Listen,
good stories.
They were two good talking stories, yeah.
So these are the sort of debates. Well, anything else you want to argue about while we're here?
Are you looking for crewing for the rest of the week?
Well, John, I've got Danny for today, and I think you would be letting those who view the blog, the hundreds and thousands across the globe who view the blog every day. You're laughing? See, here's another opinion. What are you laughing about? Your aunts watch it.
They do.
Yeah.
I'm saying they're global. They're the Midlands. It's
enough. You know.
The fact is, John, we don't bear grudges on this news desk.
Good.
So that's the end of that then.
I'm not getting a crew,
You will get.
We'll see how today's discussions work out in Scotland Today tonight at 6 o'clock.